We hear it daily from MSNBC and CNN, from the New York Times and the Washington Post, that people who doubt the narrative of what's loosely called Russiagate are somehow acting on behalf of or under the spell of the Kremlin, that we aren't Americans any longer. This is a whole new realm of defamation. I'm shocked, but I'm not astonished, because I have thought and said for a number of years that there's been a steady degradation of American political culture and discourse. I think all of us need to focus on what's happened in this country when in the very mainstream, I mean at the highest, most influential levels of the political establishment, this kind of discourse is no longer considered an exception. It is the norm.
There was a report put out recently by the very influential Council on Foreign Relations. They arrived to very different conclusions that you do and call for an even more aggressive policy towards Russia than we have already. What you think the aims there are of people from an establishment group like this pushing now for ramping up confrontation with Russia?
What is the Council on Foreign Relations? It's not just a think tank. The Council is and has been for almost 100 years the single most influential non-governmental center of foreign policy influence. And what it's done over the years, because of its elite membership, is shape essentially the parameters of mainstream discussion, what's kosher and what isn't kosher. They are a reflection of where we're at in this country in terms of our political establishment. But for various reasons, I assure you, this new Cold War is much more dangerous, much more likely to end in hot war than was the 40-year Cold War, which we barely survived. What's the most worrying thing? That the new Cold War is unfolding not far away from Russia, but on Russia's borders in the Baltic and in Ukraine. That we are building up our military presence there, so the Russians are counter-building up, though within their own territory. That means the chances of hot war are now much greater than they were before. Not only do we not have a discussion of these real dangers in the United States, but anyone who wants to incite a discussion, including the President of the United States, is called treasonous. It's a lot of people who are being called Kremlin agents because they want to digress from the basic narrative. And meanwhile, I would add that people in Moscow who form their political establishment, who surround Putin and the Kremlin, and who have always tended to be kind of pro-American and very moderate, have simply come to the conclusion that war is coming. They can't think of a single thing to tell the Kremlin to offset hawkish views in the Kremlin. And these were the people in Moscow who are our détente peacekeeping interlocutors. They have been destroyed by Russiagate. Their influence in Russia is zilch. So this is the damage that's been done. There's never been anything like this in my lifetime.